mentally, physically, and psychologically.
Another intense school board meeting, emotions running high, the major reversal on mask rules in Palm Beach County schools and what it could mean for your children.
Then thousands of Palm Beach County students are already in quarantine. This morning we're learning about new options to make sure they do not fall behind.
Big time backlog. COVID contact tracers are overwhelmed across the state. The biggest hurdles to get things back on track, it all starts right now.
You're watching CBS 12 News This Morning.
And big news overnight coming out of the back and forth over masks in Palm Beach County schools. Good morning, I'm Matt Lincoln.
And I'm Ashley Glass. A lot going on here. Starting Monday, students can no longer opt out of wearing masks.
We are going to get to that district decision defying the governor's order in just a bit. But first, let's check on the tropics. Here's meteorologist Lauren Oleski.
Matt, Ashley, thanks. Still monitoring Henri, Grace, and Fred. I'll get the graphic for you in my next update. I'm still trying to build it, but Grace just made landfall near Tulum as a Category 1 hurricane with 80-mile-an-hour winds. Now, that's likely just its first landfall. We're expecting landfall again in Mexico sometime later in the day tomorrow or early Saturday. Again, we'll look at that in my next update. It feels like 85 degrees right now in West Palm Beach. It's warm, it's very humid outside, so we are again dealing with a very high heat index, and it's going to be steamy throughout the remainder of the day. Our temperatures are going into the low 90s, but with the humidity, it'll feel anywhere between 100 and 105 degrees at times throughout the day. So please make sure you're staying hydrated, especially if you're working outdoors for long periods of time. A couple of showers could move on shore through the morning. Nothing that's really going to slow you down too much, and then otherwise our skies are partly cloudy to mostly sunny through the day. Again, we'll take a closer look at that landfall with Grace in my next update. Matt, Ashley.
All right, Lauren, let's take a look right now on our roads here this morning. In 40-minute drive, West Palm Beach to Port St. Lucie, that is normal. We are not seeing any major slowdowns on our roads at this time.
The time is 6:01 this morning. Major reversal on mask rules in Palm Beach County schools.
Students will no longer have the option to opt out of wearing masks in the classroom. We've got live team coverage on this morning, from information about the contact tracers who just can't keep up, and also the new quarantine options in schools.
But we want to start with Kara reporting live in West Palm Beach this morning. More on that bombshell decision on masks on school campuses. Kara?
Good morning, Matt and Ashley. For a lot of people, this may be the very first time they are hearing this news, as that meeting went well past 11 o'clock last night. The decision that starting on Monday, all students and staff in Palm Beach County will now be required to wear face masks on school grounds as well as on school buses. Now, this decision came after hours of public comments and pushback from parents and teachers who were against wearing face masks. Keep in mind, up until last night, parents did have the option to opt out of their child wearing a mask. We even saw a rally outside of district headquarters before that meeting got started. The decision not sitting well with both parents and teachers, who say they just want the right to choose. Take a listen.
That's why I'm here today, for the teachers that are afraid to speak out because they're afraid they're going to lose their job and their livelihood.
We're not going away. We will never comply. We will never stand down. And we will never put your mask on.
Of course, this ruling goes against Governor DeSantis' order banning mask mandates in school districts. Earlier this week, the State Board of Education voted to punish Alachua and Broward counties for their mandates. No word yet on what the board will decide for Palm Beach County. We do know this policy will be in effect for at least 90 days. Matt, Ashley, the only exemption here is for students with a disability or another medical reason.
All right, Kara, thank you. So as of Monday, all South Florida schools will have a mask mandate that defies the governor's executive order. Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, and Broward counties all voting this week to impose a mask mandate forcing kids to wear masks.
6:04, President Biden putting more heat on some Republican governors like ours, Governor DeSantis, about the statewide bans on mask mandates in schools. In the last 24 hours, the president has ordered his education secretary to look at all tools available, possible legal action against states blocking the mandates, like Florida, Texas, and at least 6 other states. Get this, too, just like we've heard Governor DeSantis threaten to withhold money from schools that go against his order, the U.S. Education Department's Civil Rights Office can issue a whole bunch of sanctions for civil rights violations, including pulling all federal education funding. Though it's important to note here, no such threat has been made from the feds.
And the Palm Beach County School District making this change to mandatory masks because seeing hundreds of students test positive. Let's take a look here at the dashboard. Right now, 868 total confirmed cases over the first 2 weeks of school. As we know of this morning, more than 11,000 students had opted out of wearing a mask since school started last week. And we know Jupiter Community High School had been the school that had the most number of opt-outs. But when we look over here at Jupiter Community High School, you can see right there 35 students have tested positive the first days of school. That is the most of any school in Palm Beach County. Generally, though, what we are seeing is that these numbers are pretty much well spread out. When we look at yesterday, 139 students, that is over 67 different schools. This is all leading to more than 3,000 students being sent back home to quarantine. And this morning, we are getting a better idea of how learning from home is looking for these students. Sam's keeping up with all the changes from the COVID alert desk. Sam, how are Palm Beach County schools making sure kids stay on track?
Well, the good news for these students who are sent home to quarantine is that those days out of the classroom will not be considered absences as long as they still get their assignments from their teachers. They can do that online or have someone pick up the work for them. Now, full-time remote learning is not an option for students this year, but at that school board meeting yesterday, Interim Superintendent Mike Burke now saying teachers will have the option to turn on the cameras in their classrooms for students who are at home, but it still won't be required. The interim superintendent also giving parents a new incentive to get their kids vaccinated if they're eligible.
If students are vaccinated with no symptoms, we're able to get them right back into class. So that's a good incentive, I think, for our families to consider, and just helping us to avoid any further disruption.
While the school district thinks sending kids home cuts down on the spread of the virus, Governor DeSantis making it clear at a press conference in West Palm Beach yesterday he is against quarantining kids who are not showing COVID symptoms.
I think quarantining healthy kids deprives these kids of an ability to get an education. Now, maybe a parent would want a healthy kid to be quarantined if there's an exposure, but I think that should be the choice of the parent.
The State Department of Health actually calls the shots on when kids should quarantine and for how long. Their policy says kids should go home if they're exposed to someone COVID positive for 15 minutes or longer. Ashley?
All right, Sam, looking at our districts on the Treasure Coast now, Martin County has 573 students at quarantine, Indian River 116. We also know hundreds of students are out in St. Lucie County schools.
And as COVID numbers surge, the health department is struggling to keep up with contact tracing.
Yeah, they're overwhelmed. One whistleblower tells CBS 12 News the health department, bogged down with so many cases right now, making it extremely difficult for these contact tracers to do their job.
You got a feel for them, right? And CBS 12 News' Madeline Montgomery joining us live from the Department of Health with more on this. Maddie?
A Delray woman who works for the health department says it's her job to do contact tracing, and it's getting harder and harder as there are more and more cases with the Delta variant. And this woman asked to remain anonymous so that she would not get into trouble with her boss. But she says at the beginning of the summer, when there were fewer COVID cases, the health department slowed down on contact tracing and focused more on vaccine efforts. Well, now she says the sudden influx of cases has left the tracers overworked, exhausted, and unable to do their jobs properly. For instance, every close contact of a positive case used to get 3 calls a day for 3 straight days until that person answered the phone. But now there isn't enough staff or enough hours in the day to make that happen.
It grew to where instead of doing the usual 3 times contact per person per day for 3 days, it was literally 3 attempts and you can call it out. You can close it out as a closed case.
That woman we interviewed tells us she's leaving her job this week to do similar work elsewhere, and we did reach out to the Department of Health about this story, and they said they cannot confirm it. Reporting live in West Palm Beach, Madeline Montgomery, CBS 12 News.
All right, Maddie, 609, there's a brand new antibody treatment clinic in West Palm Beach, supposed to make COVID symptoms not as bad, make you less likely to end up in the hospital. So people looking to fight off the virus can get these monoclonal antibody treatments for free. There will be about 20 of these clinics statewide. The one in West Palm Beach can treat about 300 people a day. It's located at Westgate Park, open each day 9 to 5. We have all these details on our website now, cbs12.com. Just search antibody treatments.
6:09 this morning, nursing homes that want to keep their federal funding will have to make sure their staff is vaccinated against the virus. The Department of Health and Human Services will draw up new regulations requiring staff at nursing homes that receive Medicare and Medicaid funds to get the vaccine. This could take effect as soon as next month.
And this morning, more people could be eligible for a COVID-19 booster shot in less than 5 weeks. Health experts say vaccines become less effective over time, and a booster could increase your antibodies. If the FDA signs off on this one, booster shots for Pfizer and Moderna vaccines could roll out for many Americans on September 20th. And right now, people with weak immune systems, they already qualify. Publix says they're already offering the third dose. Pharmacies are another option to consider. We know the big ones like CVS and Walgreens are taking appointments right now.
10 past 6 now, a difficult decision about what should be done with the site of the condo collapse. Coming up next, why a judge decided that keeping it as a memorial is just not going to work.
And bye-bye to those fast passes. They're gone forever at Disney. For all the parents thinking about waiting in line for hours and hours, we're going to tell you about the consolation plan this theme park is now offering up.
And we're tracking the tropics all morning long from Grace to Henri. We're breaking them both down in depth. We're going to talk about Grace, which has now made landfall in Mexico, the impacts the U.S. could see through the weekend, and who needs to be on watch for the storm after the Yucatan. That's next.